Yesterday we talked about mapping out your buyer's journey, and we filled out the template for mapping out your buyer's journey, and there are all these different pieces to it. Today we're going to take that information and we're going to create our own article that you can share. So let's just jump into it. I don't have a lot of theorizing to do today. We're just going to get into the specific process of getting this done. So if you look at the FAQ article template, what you'll see here is the different items that you're going to share in here actually correlate back to the stuff you filled out yesterday in the mapping the buyer's journey. So let's just look at a quick example here. So, well, I guess just to restate this, all the stuff that you have on here, right? All this stuff you have here that you filled out, we're going to then put it into this format so that way you can actually kind of like instantly have this article that you would share. It's really the bones of the article. Definitely when it's done, you're going to want to put your own tone and maybe switch a few things around. But this gives you the nuts and bolts and the skeleton of what you need to do to share. And so let's just look at an example here. So one of the examples we talked about yesterday was a cyber liability insurance. You had a customer named John. He had a couple of business partners, Dave and Kevin, and they were existing clients. They became aware that they needed to add some cyber liability coverage. And so what was the situation? Well, the buyer had a friend with a data breach that caused their friend to acknowledge that his business was also at risk. So what were some of the questions that they had in the awareness phase? Okay, what are my current exposures? List of coverages. I feel that I need to feel that the investment is worth the risk. And then what did they do, right? And this part here, sometimes we guess. We don't always know exactly what they've done. And then when we completed it, right, you put some resources you had some content that you could give them. You've kind of flushed out any sort of keywords related to the things that they've talked about. And then you decided there were a few different kinds of social posts that are pieces of content that would be good for them. So now it's time for us to fill out this part, right? So now what we need to do is we need to take that stuff and put it into this more of a template format to create a piece of content that we're going to share with them. So what was their question? Okay. Awareness phase. Do I need cyber liability? Right? What do I do in the case of a data breach? Am I insured for a data breach? You know, what are the questions that they would be asking? And so that could be a great title for your article. And then we're going to go back and we're going to lean back on the information from that buyer's journey. What did they need to know to resolve the question? What did they need to feel to overcome the question? That's exactly what we put right in here. So that was the sections that we covered that. So we're going to put that in there, and then we're going to, turn it into sentences instead of just bulleted points. And then we're going to add the path. So we have the brain, the heart, the path, the steps that they need to take to move forward. Okay. What are those steps? This is where you could shoot a video and then just, embed it in an article that you post on LinkedIn, or you could actually write out an article. But this is really when you sit down with somebody, if I was the potential client and we sat down and you start kind of giving me your spiel, okay, this is that succinct version of that where you're helping them understand this is what cyber liability is for. These are the situations that you need it in. And so you're really establishing point one. Point one is you do need it, okay? We're not saying this is how to get it yet. We're just saying this is what it is, right? Because they were in the awareness phase. And then if you can convince them that they're in the awareness phase, then the call to action, right, that they're going to be here, down here, is invite them to take their next step, okay? And the next step could be, if you'll reach out to me, then we can help you make sure that we get you the policy you need. It might be, though, that there are some general questions that always come up in the consideration phase for in this example, selling cyber liability. And so once again, you could create another article that asks some of those questions. And so it might be that the call to action from the first article is going to say, you know what, if you realize, or now that you recognize the need for this, when you go shopping for it, there's a few different considerations you need to think about. And so then you could lead them to another document, or it might just be, give me your email and I'll send you this really cool checklist that I've created of 15 things you need to really think about when you're shopping for it. And now you've got their email, right? And so now you can actually drip content out to, you can do all these kinds of things, but you've also got them to make a baby commitment towards you, right? It's kind of like that, I call that like the kiss on the cheek, right? At the end of the date, of the first date with someone to get a second date, right? You go up to the door and, they give you an awkward handshake, things didn't go as well as you want, but if they give you a little nice, little peck or something, then you can feel like, hey, I think this is going the right direction. Well, you have to ask, right? You got to go for it, right? So what we need to do is we need to take an action here in this article that's going to make a small commitment on their end, that's going to commit them to pick us, to choose us. I'd really like to help you with this. I've got something else I think you'll really like. Give me your email, right? You could just make it a link and they could go to it. But when you say, give me your email and then I'll send this thing to you, they've had to buy a little bit. They've had to give you a little bit of a commitment because now you have their email, right? And so it's going to scare some of them off. You're not going to get all of them, but you have to make that decision when you're creating this content. Are you going to start trying to develop that? Because it's so key, especially with emails, right? One of the ultimate things that you can do if you really get this whole system going is you create landing pages that has content that you exchange for their email. And then with that email, you can then say, you know what? You can set it up as a drip email campaign that says, a couple of days ago, you asked, you read this article or you requested this checklist. One of the things that I found that people are shopping for cyber also, and you could have some other consideration, and I just wanted to send this to you, and so you're going to drip out a few more pieces of content, right? I don't want to get too complicated in this process because this whole course is built around trying to keep it really simple, but you can kind of see the depths you can go to, and if you can get that first commitment, then they give you their email, you can move things forward a little bit. So when that's done, then we really have the second part of your article, which is right here. I have this black line here. Let me jump in here a little bit closer. This line here is because these are kind of like optional components. These are optional components that you can integrate into your article. So do you have any examples or case studies? Can you share an example or case study or support that supports your message? And that's why this article, yesterday I talked about how I gave the example of a trusted choice article. And the thing about that article is it's very impersonal. It's just the straight up facts. It's very sensitized, desensitized, right? There's no personal voice in it. And big companies, they have a lot of great content, right? Your carriers have great content, but it's all been scrubbed down. So it's just the content. And so we don't want our content to be like that. We want our content to be infused with our superpowers, right? With who we are. And so if you can add an example or a case study or a testimonial, maybe you've got some of those other resources that you could share with them. You might embed that in there. These are all really powerful things that you want to integrate into this article. And so if you can answer those things here, you may not put them all in the article for the final draft, but at least you can kind of populate it with kind of this brainstorm session that we're doing right now. So that way you can get all this content here and thinking about it. And then I would say before you actually go out and turn this into sentences and write out your full article, then there's two other things you want to talk about. Number one is images, illustrating, zoom back in here, illustrating their question or problem or establishing your relationship. There's two different reasons you're going to put imagery into an article. Okay, I mean, overall, we just like pictures as humans, so that's nice. But if you go get some stock photography or some random things, you put it in there, I don't know that it's helping you out. What we want to do is we want to have specific imagery that's going to help them do two things. Number one, it's going to illustrate their question. So it might be you found some stock photography, you have some sort of imagery that's going to further the clarity that they're seeking. Okay, and that's good. Or maybe it references, right? You're talking about umbrella policies. Maybe you're going to have a picture of an umbrella. But the second one is the one that you'll never get from a carrier site, and it's the content that you really need to put out there that's going to help them see you. And that is, what is imagery that establishes your relationship? Okay, so one of the things you could do here, and I've probably talked about this in other parts of the course, I talk about this a lot in the workshops, and that is hire a wedding photographer to come into your life, right? Into your agency or into your office, and have them take some pictures of things that are going on. Right, just get some nice pictures of the day in the life of what you're doing, especially if you have multiple producers. So if you're the individual producer, you want this to be about you. If you're a principal, then you want to get all these pictures of your office, your day-to-day. And what's going to happen is you're going to start putting these images into your articles that give people a glimpse of you. They're seeing your face in more than one situation, right? I mean, we use the same cover photo for everything, or the profile picture. Okay, what we want them to do is see you in a day-to-day. And so whether it's maybe working with a client, maybe it's giving them, and of course, if you get other people involved, you need to get their permission and things like that. But at the same time, you want to be able to let them start seeing who you really are. And so that's why video is so powerful, because it's you talking and they feel connection. But with the writing, it's easy for them to separate that it's a message from you. And so you want to make sure they see that very clearly. So having some imagery, and I just know, I always say a wedding photographer, there's always like some, friend of yours who loves shooting, and so they're kind of starting a small business or something. You don't have to pay for like something really expensive. You can just get someone to say, hey, you know what? I'd love it if you could come in and just take some shots. And so you're going to have this folder somewhere in your computer with all these pictures that are about you and your life. And it might be that you take some pictures yourself, and so you can pull some stuff that is appropriate for this scenario from the pictures you're taking with your phones and things like that. This is really important. This is what's making it personalized, okay? Might even be that it's personalized for your location. Maybe there are pictures, if you're talking about, maybe this whole topic is about restaurants. And so you're going to go down to the restaurant district of your town, and you're going to take some pictures of different things like that. Or you've got a couple of restaurants that are great examples. If you gave a case study in here, let's say this was all about a restaurant related insurance solution. If you had a restaurant that has that kind of insurance and you have a good relationship with them, and you have a little case study that talks about it, then having that picture of you with them in that article is just going to make that so much more personalized and strong. Sometimes I think this whole training that we're doing for these 3 weeks is we've like taken this little conversation that most people have in about 5 minutes, which is, how do I create content and put it online in such a way that it's going to grow my business, okay? And what we've done is we just stretched it out, and we're looking at all these little bits and pieces. But these little bits and pieces are overlooked unless we take the time to really extract them out. And this is one of the key things. And so your articles is important. And then secondly, you want to finally, or the second call to action, finally, the last thing you want to have on your article is you need to have a second call to action that's about building the relationship with you. And so what you're going to see is that, jumping back to our example that we were talking about, which was, if now you have cyber, then the next step might be to go ahead and read this other article. But you might have that second call to action that says, look, I've got some other content that talks about it, but ultimately what I really like to do is talk to you to understand your situation. It's free to talk to me, make it clear, and whatever your unique selling proposition is, really tune into that in the way that you articulate this, and make that proposition to have them reach out to you in whichever fashion you want to do. So you want to have that next call to action. Some of you guys, of course, are going to be like, oh, this was so easy. I've already been writing forever. And, I just sat down in front of the video and I just pretended I had my client there and I shot the video and I feel really good about it and I shared it. But some of you guys are going to say, man, this is where the rubber hits the road, and I'm scared to death to write something out and put it out there. So let us virtually hold your hand as much as we can in this process. Work on this. This is something you're going to be doing over and over again. And so, like everything, every time you do it, you're going to feel more comfortable. And you can always go back and you can edit things as well. And then when it's all done, then what you want to do is you want to go into LinkedIn and you want to go ahead and publish this post. So that's your assignment for today. Write the article and use this template that we've talked about. And then once you're ready, go into LinkedIn, and we're up at the top, right? I'll show you real quick. If you are on your profile where it says start a post, just go to write an article. And then when you click write an article, then you're going to get the chance for you to put in your cover photo, write in your article, paste that in there, whatever you've filled out. And then when you're done, you can publish it and it'll be right there. So that's it for today. Like always, please, if you're struggling, if you have questions, if you're excited, if you want to share a link to an article you wrote based on this lesson, go into the Boss Social community and share it there. So that's it. Go to work, and I will see you tomorrow where we're going to talk about calls to action.